You have to truly believe in the magic.
Hey, Magic fans, and welcome to episode 100 of Penny for Your Thoughts, the podcast of the Orlando Magic UK. I nearly forgot who we were then. I can't. I was about to say that I can't believe people are still listening to us after us doing 100 of these, and I just proved that we are still really, really amateur at it. But hey, there we go. um, let's run on. We are going to be joined by one of our closest friends, the one and only Jeff Turner, a veteran of 612 NBA regular season games with New Jersey and Orlando, Olympic champion and Orlando's television color analyst at Valley Sports Florida. So he will be talking to us. We're going to be talking preseason games and thoughts on the team. It's just good to be doing this. So we are recording on Saturday, the 8th of October, and I'm joined by the gruesome twosome, the dynamic duo. Geraint, how you doing, my man?
I'm very good, mate. Very excited to have Jeff on. But even more excited about our trip. I know we keep banging on about it, but this morning I told my children we're going to go and see Mickey Mouse and a bit of Magic basketball. And my God, have they been excited. We had a FaceTime call with Mikey and Lily earlier. They're up for it, aren't they, mate?
And Lily's shouting "Let's go Magic" to your two.
Quality.
They're all ready, aren't they?
Yeah. So we got a youth system in place already.
Nice.
So no, I'm good, thank you, Paul. I'm really good. Good couple of games of Magic basketball this week to see us through. Good to have you back as well. Obviously,
yes.
Ill health.
As you described it off air before we started, I'm back in the So Solid crew.
Hey, you got to get through this, mate.
Oh, mate, honestly. What a 10 days that was. Food poisoning is great for weight loss, let me tell you. There we go. Mikey, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well. First of all, we need to apologise for last week with our voice of the valleys with this little slip of the tongue. And I forgot to edit out of the audio part of the podcast with G cursing. So if you heard that version, then hopefully you had a good laugh out of it, because we did, but never mind.
I know.
By the point I listened to it, you'd edited it, so I didn't.
I had edited it. I had a message. On. We had a message on Twitter. I can't think who it was now, and there was something about. I think the editor or the editors missed cutting it out. And I was like, nah, sure I did it. And I went through the YouTube video. I was like, that's perfect. And I was like, nah, if the video's perfect, then the audio is. And then I think I listened to it. I was like, oh no. Because we've done 100 episodes and we try and keep it clean just so everybody can listen to it, but never mind.
Believe me, we get it out of the way before we start, and then as we've been talking for an hour without, we have another 10 minutes after
we have
the recording's finished.
We have a little Tourette's
yeah,
moment
we have a
afterwards.
Tourette's moment afterwards, don't we? So I'm keeping the plug short this week. If you want to support us, the biggest thing you can do is hit the subscribe button on YouTube. We are really wanting to get to 1,000 followers, and we're moving up steadily. So please subscribe. And if you know mates who are into listening, mention us and see if they'll subscribe as well. Really helps us out. But let's get on to the Magic News, because we've had 3 preseason games since we last recorded. Well, since you two last recorded, because I wasn't available. I think I'd have managed about 10 minutes to talk to you between having to dash off. It would have been a very short episode. So we opened pre-season losing 97-109 on Monday night in Memphis. It was a disjointed Magic offence led by Cole Anthony with 17 points. RJ scored 14 and Paolo Banchero contributed 8 points in his NBA preseason debut. We took a first win a couple of nights later over the Spurs, 102-99. Wendell recorded a double-double, 20 points, 10 rebounds. Franz with his only preseason action. Franz Wagner weighed in with 12 points as he played alongside Paolo Banchero for the first time. Nice looking partnership. I'm excited by them three together. Paolo, he produced a strong set of numbers: 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and we got a Mo Wagner cameo along with Mo Bamba, Bol Bol, and Wendell having a bit of a slap fest as far as blocks go. And then last night we took a victory, 110-105 in Dallas, and Paolo was man of the game as far as Orlando were concerned, with 19 points, shooting 6 of 13 attempts, hitting 6 of 13 attempts. Downside, Jalen Suggs, suffering a lower leg injury, which has been described as being a capsule sprain and bone bruise. No idea what a capsule sprain is, but there we go. His return to play will be dependent upon how he responds to treatment. Really, that's a shocker.
I know. on that, Paul, I did a little bit of a deep dive, and this is an injury that Kendrick Nunn had last season. Okay. Kendrick Nunn didn't play at all season, so fingers crossed. It's I know I don't want to be the bearer of bad news.
Cheers, G.
I know. We don't get.
You know, I say we were about to get Jeff Turner on, and we were going to have a really good episode. Thank you for not watching. Good night.
Sorry, you'd have heard it later anyway. So, but I think from what other people have been saying on Twitter, it could be back by December, January. So we shall see. It all depends on the bruise on the bone, I think. Okay. So we shall see.
Yeah. So what have your thoughts been so far on what we've seen? Mikey, very quickly, what have you seen that you liked?
Well, let's start with the Memphis game. I thought at the end of the day, it was just shaking the rust off for that game for me. I wasn't really worried about the box score. It was always going to be an ugly start, especially having missed two whole days of practice with the Hurricane. So, and you're going against the Grizzlies, who've established themselves as a really good NBA team. So that was fine. I think as the 3 games have gone on, we've got better. Certainly. Obviously, if you've won 2 of them, and I think some of that's obviously had to do with rotations, and we've got back into the game, or we've certainly taken the lead towards the end when the end of the bench are coming in and you're sitting the starters. Certainly, offensively, we've got some issues. I think we're going to touch on that with Jeff later as well, but that certainly has some work to go, because for a team that finished last in the league last year, that's something that we really need to improve on this year. But we're going to get into specifics in a minute. But for me, RJ Hampton's been really positive this week. Obviously, seeing Banchero, his debut this week as well. It was good just to have basketball back, to be honest, more than anything.
Wasn't it?
Getting back into the routine of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and watching before going to work. So, yeah, all good.
I think that getting up early has allowed you to actually experience the NBA app better than G and I have. So, G, aside from the frustrations of trying to actually get a game to play, what have you seen that you've liked? I mean, I only saw highlights thanks to the app of the Spurs game. I couldn't watch anything more than all possessions. So what's been good for you, man?
In fact, that's exactly what I watched for the Spurs game, 34 minutes of all possession. But I was able to decipher a few things from it. So obviously, great that we were able to... What I've seen in the last 2 games especially is you've still got that desire and that fight in us that, we're a young team, we don't care. You could be down 19 to the Spurs. You could be, I think we had an 8.5 minute scoring drought against the Dallas Mavericks yesterday. So they've stuck to the game plan. They've changed a few things. Instead of just settling, they've punched the ball in, just being a bit more physical. Obviously, Wendell Carter was superb in the game against the San Antonio Spurs. He was an absolute monster. Did a bit of everything. Banchero, he's obviously grown in each game. He was especially good in the game against Dallas last night. a couple of moves. He just showed a bit more composure. That the game was coming to him. It was one particular move I was very impressed with. Like, he could be our go-to scorer. Mikey's mentioned, the offense is a little bit disjointed at the moment. That's probably not what Mark Elfeld's hat on, but we haven't got our proper point guard on.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's true. It's absolutely true, mate.
But the team is finding a way. Franz Wagner's been in and out. He's played one of the 3 games. Defense as well. I thought that the San Antonio Spurs shredded us when we went to the zone in that second game. Things changed up a little bit then. The second half, things got a bit better. So this is all going to come, and starters have played 24 minutes max. So we're seeing a lot of bench play as well. I know we're going to touch upon a couple of the reserve guys in a second, but all in all, after 3 games, including Grizzlies, who are Western Conference finalists, Dallas Mavericks, who are pretty decent as well, to go 2-1 in week 1 with less practices than most teams, less preseason games before they started this than most games. Very happy, to be perfectly honest with you, other than the Jalen Suggs injury, of course.
Well, you look at it. I mean, really, we've played 2 teams in Memphis and Dallas, who are really heavily fancied. Memphis seem to take it as a personal insult if you score a basket at all. They really play superb defense. And what can we say about Dallas with Luka? The guy's just stunning. What I do want to mention about Dallas is I really like the pickup of Christian Wood. He looks a really strong player for them. I like how they've changed their front court, bringing in JaVale McGee and him. I think they're really interesting. They're going to be hard to play.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Yeah, Dallas will be there or thereabouts with Memphis. Obviously, San Antonio's a game, let's be honest, we expected to win. And we will in the season. I expect 2 wins off the San Antonio Spurs. Memphis and Dallas are a different kettle of fish for me.
Yeah. Right. So, G, I want to talk about a couple of different players because we don't always mention these guys. But what have you seen from Bol Bol? Are you happy? Are you liking what you're seeing so far?
So Bol Bol, he's played over 20 minutes in a couple of those games. He's obviously different to what we're used to because obviously he's almost like a forward / centre playing in almost like a guard role. He's brought the ball up a couple of times. Yeah. I think he's been a little bit passive and indecisive, getting to the basket, driving in a couple of times where I thought, hang on, you should be finishing there as opposed to passing it out. So I think that will come. I was just having a look at his stat line. First game, 0 of 2, 1 point. Second game, 0 of 2. And third game, 3 of 4 for 7 points with 7 rebounds. So there's potential there. And you look at the guy, I wouldn't like to go up against him, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because I wouldn't get any kind of shot up. So he's going to change things, even if we play him on the 3. That tall liner, and it's all about experimenting at the moment. But, he's going to have competition. He's not going to obviously start. And then you've got OKK. Said it right. That's my first time.
Good man.
Mo Wagner. And obviously Jonathan Isaac when he comes back to compete with. So he's going to have to take his opportunities. But I think he'll be, played in situational possessions and probably, dare I say, garbage minutes for the first part of the season until, he proves himself to be a proper rotation player, see what he can bring. So it's a little bit up in the air.
Okay. I thought last night's performance, he worked in every minute that he was on the court. Definitely his best game. Although 2 blocks against the Spurs were good defensive plays that he put up. I'm with you though. I do agree. It's kind of okay. There's definitely something there. I'll be intrigued to see him play longer alongside Mo Bamba. I think it'll be an interesting partnership.
He looks like somebody who's not played a lot of NBA minutes over the last couple of years, and I think that's what he's trying to get. He's just trying to get himself going again, isn't he?
Yeah.
And mate, Mikey, I'm going to ask you about what is a guy who's night and day from how he was in summer league. RJ Hampton. These 3 preseason games. What are your thoughts, mate?
You said it, mate. I think the step and the jump that he's made from summer league, where he had that pressure on him, being a third-year player, who you were looking at, right? You've got summer league to get more reps and stand out a little bit. And if anything, he was really disappointing in summer league. He was making bad decisions. Now, whether some of that was the team were experimenting with him in certain roles or certain situations, that might have been part of why he didn't look so good in summer league. But mate, he looks so composed. That's probably the best word I'd use for the first 3 games of pre-season. He looks like he's under control. He's attacking at the right moment. I want to say it was the Memphis game, and he got the ball. I think he got a rebound, pushed the ball down the floor on a fast break, and he sort of used the hesitation dribble, and he used that seconds burst to get to the basket and finish really quickly. That's what you want from RJ Hampton. That's that sort of possession. That's what you want to see more from him. Not just attacking the basket or attacking the paint without much purpose or not knowing quite what he's going to do. And I think that's what we saw from him in summer league. There wasn't really a lot of structure. It didn't really look like he knew what he wanted to do when he was out there. And he certainly looks like he's got that about him in pre-season. And he's doing everything. He's shooting threes. He's playing good on the defensive side of the ball. He's rebounding. I think he scored 14 against Memphis. I think he scored 7 and 8 in the last couple of games. But he's doing everything. He's finding other players. He's getting assists as well. So yeah, it's really pleasing for RJ. And I think it's also important the fact that we're going to possibly be missing 3 of our guards going into the start of the season. Yeah. There's going to be a lot asked of RJ, either coming off the bench or maybe even starting.
We saw it last night, didn't we? Really, when Jalen went down, RJ was the guy who had to step into that role.
Yeah,
he worked. He worked last night.
Yeah, absolutely. So
he put the minutes in.
He did. It's good to see.
Yeah. Now, it's got to be. I've got to ask you about this. As we saw a picture this week on Twitter. Now, whether or not it's true or not, we don't know. But the NBA refs are bringing out a set of trading cards for you to collect.
Some warning cards.
The warning cards, mate.
I'll be on my best behaviour, Paul, unless our dear friends Mark or Lauren are there. And of course, I want to get a card, and I'll ask him to sign it for me as well.
I expect to see it framed on the wall behind you, mate.
Oh yeah, it will be. It will be, unless I can sell it on eBay.
Can you imagine?
I just think it's hilarious. If I can't see it. I don't see it being something that the NBA refs are going to get involved in. You would surely expect that they're just going to kind of
tap on the shoulder.
I'm assuming it's already within the game that, you know, if there's somebody not acting in the way that they should near to the benches or players, that security are alerted. I can't see that the refs are going to be given a new responsibility of not watching the game but watching the fans. That's not something I expect, but I just think it'd be hilarious, mate. You'd have a lovely collection, man. Great.
Well, it's a good thing we're not playing the Los Angeles Lakers, isn't it?
It's also a good reason why you're not sat courtside for the Warriors game when we go as well, G, with getting under Draymond Green's skin.
Yeah, don't calling him the triple single as he's rumoured that John called it.
Yeah,
if that's right, that is just.
If he's still there,
I don't think that is true. I don't think that is true.
I mean, I know it's something we want to ask Jeff about in a few minutes. But man, what a situation to be in, that is.
Yeah, it's unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah,
In this day and age, to have a leak of a video like that, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't do much for team chemistry, does it?
I'll tell you what, though, it was a hell of a punch.
I'm surprised to see Evan Fournier's tweeted out about it, isn't it? Saying there's no coming back from this. You can't. How can you remain teammates? I'm surprised to see him weighing in, unless that's. Would that be classed as tampering if he's trying to get him into New York? He's trying to get Jordan across New York. We've found a new way of tampering.
Well, Trey Young, what was it? Trey Young tweeted. Was it something about? Oh, he's punched his way to LA or something like that. I can't remember. It was something along those lines. The memes are going to be out in force, aren't they, for the next few days?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So after G gets his collection of cards, let's look at what we've got coming up this week. We have our next home game is on Tuesday, and we take on the Memphis Grizzlies again. So we've already seen what they can do. It's going to be interesting to see if you don't know what lineup we're going to get, do you? Let's be fair. But it'd be interesting to see how we've developed in these in the 2 games since we've played them, as to what we can actually do. What would you be? I'll ask you the question that I'm leading to. What would you want to see as progression from where we were on the first game to playing them on Tuesday night?
Well, first of all, it'd be great to have David and Jeff back and we get a proper broadcast.
Good.
Because I'm
assuming we can watch it.
Yeah, if we can watch it. So, have a word, League Pass.
Get it sorted.
So you want to see the minutes ramped up for the guys who are going to play, for me, in the regular season. Obviously, the first couple of games, everyone's getting reps, 20, 24 minutes per player or so, give or take. You want to see defensive schemes, offensive sets, being performed a little bit better. You want to see execution, and just to be a bit more competitive. I'm sure we will be, given it's a home game. And I don't think there's much more you want in a preseason game, but just no injuries.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was going to say to Mikey, do you think we'll see Franz in that game?
I do, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't think... I know, obviously, he sat out the Memphis game and then it was made known that he was going to play against San Antonio. And I think I used our account and tweeted at Kobe Price or somebody before and said, do you think he'll play in a back-to-back? And obviously he didn't. So the fact that there's, 2 days in between the last 2 preseason games against Memphis and Cleveland.
Then we've got Cleveland, haven't we? Yeah.
Then I think we'll certainly see Franz in one of them. I would definitely say that. Yeah. Which the Cleveland game, Angus is going to be over and in attendance. So hopefully we get a good performance for him. So let's move on then. Let's move on to getting Jeff Turner on with us. Okay, Magic fans, we are now joined by a returning friend of the show, the one and only Jeff Turner. How are you doing, Jeff?
I am doing good. I am so excited to be a part of the 100th episode of the Penny for Your Thoughts podcast. This is unbelievable that you guys would ask me to do that. Not David Steele, not but Jeff Turner. This is very exciting. Wouldn't want to miss this one.
You know what, Matt? We were very conscious. We'd not had you on during the summer. We'd not spoke to you.
There we go. So it was my turn.
So
you're
next in line.
When we realised the oversight, we thought, hey, we've got to have the guy on to be special. So yes, mate. That's really took your legs. I'm sorry.
I know. Just bring me back down. I'm just going to slump in my chair here.
How are things in Florida for you guys at the moment?
We're doing okay. We're the city, Central Florida, still parts of it are still recovering from the hurricane. The biggest issue we had was so much rain. It really was a big one. Dumped 15 to 20 inches of rain on the area, and so the lakes and the rivers are a little bit swollen over their banks. And so we've got a lot of our community that's still trying to recover from that. They can't get back in their homes. And so the loss of life wasn't extreme in Central Florida, not like it was on the coast. So we're thankful for that. And, the organization, the Orlando Magic, the DeVos family, I'm sure you guys have kept up with it. The DeVos stepped up. Family and pledged $1 million for the recovery efforts. And so, our organization has been very active getting out and doing things to, raise money for supplies and hurricane assistance. So we'll get through this. It's not our first go around with a hurricane, but this was one of the worst. I've been here 30 some years, and this one was bad. So glad it's moved on. And, the great thing, and it always happens, is a hurricane blows through, and what it does is it takes all of the weather with it. And so since last, Thursday, we've had sunny skies, no rain. So I think that has been a blessing, because it's allowed our community to kind of just dry out. We're not continuing to battle the rain and all the problems. So we've been fortunate there.
That's good to hear, man. Good to hear. You've been working the game so far, doing a bit of radio?
Doing a bit of radio. So we've brought back radio full time. So Jake Chapman, who has been our radio coordinator and host, and is now play-by-play. So he did a few games when he worked for the Pistons several years ago, but doing it for the Magic, it was decided that, it might be good to have for a preseason game, especially because, as you guys know, there are a lot of people playing. Sometimes it's kind of sloppy. So just to have another guy sitting with him. So I've done all three of our preseason games thus far with Jake. So it's been good for me because, I'm right there. I'm in the action. I've had to prepare. And so I'm pretty well versed on what we've done so far. So I like that. So hopefully that'll help when the lights and the cameras go on with me and David on Tuesday night.
And you get more practice tonight, because this is what we want to talk about, mate. Preseason.
All right.
We want to talk about the preseason.
Good.
This is all we're excited about at the moment. But, mate, lots of fans are getting overexcited on a couple of performances, or really hypercritical of Paolo's first outing in the preseason game. You've experienced these games, and there's all the experimentation with rotations and set plays and the like. So how much notice of results and performances should people take?
Well, I think anytime, that you have a really good performance, you kind of have to sit back or a bad performance. You look at, what are the circumstances, anytime, a lot of times the first preseason game, especially for this Magic team, because, we just talked about the hurricane. The hurricane hit right when we started training camp. So this team lost 2 full days of practice where the practice facility was shut down. So that's 4 practices that a lot of teams were able to get in. So there's a lot of the chemistry, I think, is the hard part. So I think what you saw in game 1, the team was, especially that first unit with new faces. Franz is not in the lineup. Paolo's in there. Just kind of guys trying to figure out how this all works and everything. What you saw in that game was the second unit came in, and those guys, I'm talking about Mo Wagner and Terrence Ross, RJ Hampton, Chuma. Those guys had played together, right? So they did a little better, I thought, than that first unit. You move to the second game, you see a little progress. And then in the third game against Dallas, even though we got off to a slow start, thanks to Luka Doncic, he had a lot to do with that, by the way, MVP candidate. I thought we saw some performances, particularly, Paul, you mentioned Paolo. I really thought for him that he's beginning to feel the game out a little bit. We've talked about this before. Anytime you're a rookie, it doesn't matter if you're the first pick or you're just a undrafted player, the difference between, college basketball in the case of Paolo, and the NBA, it's really getting used to the speed, and not necessarily the physical speed of the game, but how quickly you have to process things, right? That's, just a 24-second clock. You get it. You got to make a decision quick. And I think, we talked to Jeff Weltman the other day, and his thing and what he's noticed with Paolo is that Paolo's one of those guys, he wants to win, but he wants to please the coaches. He's trying to do it the right way. And sometimes that whole thing, analysis by, it's paralysis by analysis, I guess is the term. You're thinking so much that you're hesitant. And I thought we saw in the Dallas game, Paolo just kind of, being encouraged, just recognizing your matchup and take it. If he had a smaller guy on him, was physical, posted him up, got to the basket. If he had a bigger guy on him, a couple times JaVale McGee or Christian Wood were matched up with him, put it on the floor, used his quickness and got by him. And so I think as we move along in the preseason, you're going to see him really start to process quicker. Clearly, I mean, you don't have to be a basketball savant. You can watch him and see this kid is incredible. His size, his quickness is just off the charts. And it was a great pick for our team. And I feel like he's going to be an outstanding player, an all-star caliber player as he moves on in his career.
What, as a professional, were you've been through a good few pre-seasons. What were you looking for from that period?
Well, I think that, the big thing is what you're trying to get is familiarity, right? Like, so what happens is you practice and you're practicing against each other. And so, you're working on your play calls, your defensive assignments and things, but understanding that the guy you're competing against is on your team. He knows the call, right? And so, there's an advantage to that. And so from a preseason standpoint, what you get is you get to play against somebody else, right? You get to try out what you've been working on against opponents, somebody who hasn't been in your practice. So I think that's the purpose of the preseason, obviously. So as an analyst, what I'm looking at is how quickly guys are picking up the calls. Are they making the same mistakes over and over? Are we getting better? And I think if you look at the Memphis game, which was, Memphis playing, a terrific basketball team, playing at a very high level, all the turnovers, the mistakes, less turnovers against San Antonio, still fouling a little too much. And then what you saw against Dallas then was less turnovers, less turnovers live ball, like right in the middle of the court that led to fast break opportunities. We still had some screening fouls and some things like that, but then they take it out, you set your defense. So less of those, ball movement better. And what I really liked in the Dallas game was we got down, we weren't playing well, and then all of a sudden in the second quarter, what you started seeing, a 40-point second quarter, by the way, for the Magic, you started seeing, rather than the ball moving on the perimeter, you started seeing us being a little bit more assertive, more physical, attacking guys, kicking it out, attacking again. So those are, from an analyst standpoint, and I think as a fan, what you should be watching is there improvement from game to game in the preseason? And while that's going on, the coaches are evaluating, okay, this group works well together. This player, this two-man combination is good. It's a lot. And especially this year, in the front court anyway, we've got so much depth, when you're looking at, if we assume, that starting front court will be a combination of Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., and Franz Wagner. Now you're looking at the bench, and oh my goodness, you've got Mo Bamba and Bol Bol and Chumo Keke and Mo Wagner, right? Like how do you keep Mo Wagner off the floor, right? I mean, he's a guy that's supposed to be your backup third string 5-man, third string 4, but he's doing a lot of good things. And if we get Jonathan Isaac back soon, which we hope, boy, the depth there and the competition for minutes is huge. So, it's kind of fun to watch all that.
Yeah, that was really well put. I certainly thought in the Memphis game, the one thing we didn't do enough of was get paint touches. I felt like we were getting that early drive, but we were kicking the ball back out too quickly and we weren't getting deep enough. And certainly for the Dallas game, you could see those interior passes with Wendell to Paolo, and Franz was getting involved in the San Antonio game as well. But hopefully we can see more of that in the next couple of games. Jeff, obviously a lot of teams this time of year are full of optimism going into the new season. We're certainly full of it with the season right around the corner. Hopefully we're going to sniff a play-in spot. That's what we're all hoping to reach for this year. But last year the Magic finished last in offensive numbers, finished 30th. What's the next step in the process on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, that's a concern, right? I mean, it's not just last year. Over the last several years, we've been in that bottom 5 in offensive efficiency, and I think that that's a concern, right? That's got to get better. This team is going to be a good defensive team. We saw that kind of grow at the end of last season, right? They were their defensive efficiency over the last 20, 25 games was a top 10 caliber defense. The offense is always a little slower, especially with young guys. And so I think that's going to be a big key. I think, Mikey, really the big thing is the evaluation of strengths and weaknesses of each player, right? And I think, and really kind of this offense beginning to gel based on the players. It's you look around the league at different teams, and not every team is a great 3-point shooting team, right? Like, or takes a lot of threes. Philadelphia, it's going into Embiid because that's where their strength is. San Antonio last year, I know this because I just looked at last year's numbers. Their team is different, but didn't take a lot of 3-pointers, but they were so good in the mid range. So I think from an offensive efficiency standpoint for the Magic is trying to find that balance where we utilize guys to their best ability. And so I'll give you an example. Last night, I'll say last night because we're doing this on a Saturday against Dallas. I thought what you saw a little bit more of was Paolo and Wendell in the post. You don't see a lot of guys posting up anymore, but that's a strength of their game. Recognizing mismatches. If you've got a guy like Wendell Carter Jr., who, you guys have heard me say he's old school, right? Like he could have played back in the 80s and 90s when I played, when the NBA was inside, the ball started inside before it ever got to the perimeter because we had great post up guys. I think Wendell is good enough against anybody and uses his size to get him some touches in the paint. Obviously that's going to get us to the free throw line, which will make us better offensively. And it collapses the defense a little bit. If he's effective, then that opens things up. You touched on it in the Memphis game. We only had 22 points in the paint. because we weren't getting good paint penetration. We weren't collapsing the defense, kicking it out, and then getting another attack to get to the rim. I think if we utilize Paolo and Wendell in that role a little bit more, and I think that Jamal Mosley and his staff are trying to come up with ways to do that. I think that's going to help us offensively a little bit. I'd love to also, and I think they want to do this too, is play a little quicker, right? Play a little faster. Let your defense. You saw this is what Memphis does, right? Their defense kind of generates some easy buckets off turnovers in transition. I think this team can do that. You know, the problem you have is guys getting going so fast. Sometimes with a young team, slowing the tempo down, making sure you get execution is the right way. So there's a balance, but certainly that has to get better for us to be a team that's going to challenge for a play-in spot.
You've obviously touched upon Paolo in the first couple of games, Jeff. Thank you for that. But you've got to see him up and close, probably in practice. So can he be that guy and merit being taken the number one pick?
I think he can, G. I really do. I think you know, the thing about him is he's like when you're standing next to him, his like physically, like this is a big guy, right?
He's a mountain, isn't he?
He is. It's like 6'10". I think they're listing him at like 255 pounds, right? But he. I mean, it's all in his legs, and he's put together for a 19-year-old guy. And then when I watch him in practice, you know, and I say this about Markelle, right? Like you watch guys, and they just move differently than everybody else, right? Like they just kind of have they flow. I mean, you watch any sport, you know, the great ones all just seem to just move at a different speed than everybody else, right? And see things. And I think that's what we have in Paolo. Clearly, you know, you watch early, he can guard a lot of different people. That was a knock on him for some reason coming out of college, is that that was a weakness of his defensively. I don't really see that. You know, obviously playing against NBA players, he'll be challenged on the defensive end, but I think he can hold his own. So yeah, I think that part of it is going to be good. He can play all three front court positions, but I think what we've seen so far though is like when Franz is there next to him, we saw in the San Antonio game, and he's playing kind of strictly at that 4 position, that the matchups are going to be big for him. I think he can use his speed and size to take advantage there. So, you know, I know I'm a long-winded answer, but, you know, I do believe from watching him day to day that he's got a chance to be an all-star level player for years to come.
Brilliant. Let's just touch upon the guard rotation. It's no secret I'm a Markelle Fultz guy. I bang on about him every podcast.
Not.
I do. First question: how soon do you believe he'll be returning? And what do you feel is the best guard combination to start and finish games?
There's now you're going to make me put my coaching hat on here. Well, first of all, so I think we're all, I hope we're all Markelle Fultz fans, not just because of what we see as his ability, but he's just such a great young man who has worked so hard to be ready to go back on the court. So this little broken toe thing is, it's just such an annoyance to him, right? Like I saw him at media day. David and I just kind of, were standing there, and he came running up to say hello to us. And, it's just one of those things, but he looks good, right? Like you can tell he's in terrific shape. They were saying 3 weeks on this, 3 to 5, 3 to 4, something along those lines. Markelle, being the positive guy that he is, didn't think it would be that long. we're just thankful that it's not something structural, right? Like with the knee and something, it's just, they don't want it to be a lingering thing. So I'm hoping, optimistic. I'd love to see him right at the beginning of November, miss the first, maybe week of the season, week and a half of the season, and roll him in there. We had Jeff Weltman on our pod squad, and I asked him about Markelle, because, everybody's talking, like the Magic, what we want to get to is positionless basketball, right? But when you bring Markelle's name up, right? Like, no, wait a minute. Now that's a point guard, right? That's an organizer. That's a guy, to Mikey's point, gets us better offensively. We're going to execute better. He's the guy, in Jeff's words, that kind of brings everybody together. I think ultimately I would love, and we saw at the end of last season, right? When he was on the floor, it's just different, right? He just moves different. His ability to get into the paint, to find guys, it just makes the game easier for everybody else. So, you asked me a guard combination. Eventually I would see Markelle there. I think personally that, Gary Harris is a guy that we've got to talk about, right? Like, I think we saw at the, kind of midway through the season last year when Gary was forced to play extended minutes. He gives us a guy that will knock down threes, that spreads the floor. Another really good defender. He's going 6'3", 6'4", so we got good size there. So I would see him. But, again, I look at the preseason and I feel good because RJ Hampton has made huge strides, right? Like, watched him in summer league and I'm thinking, RJ, just slow down, right? And you watch him now in the preseason and he's playing with so much confidence, and just making so many good decisions. That gives us a little depth there. And of course, our dynamic young guys of Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs, any of those guys can roll in next to Markelle, and they all bring something different, right? Like, whether it's Jalen's defensive intensity, Cole's scoring ability. I love having RJ coming in off the bench, organizing. I'd love to see Cole in that 6-man role as well, because I just think he's got that personality that, he could be one of those great come in 25-minute guys that's going to give you 18 to 20 points. That's just, I think that would be a great role for him. So I don't know if there's a perfect combination. That's for the coaches to figure out. But I certainly think if, when we get healthy, because that's where all of our medical issues are really right now, is in our backcourt, and we're a little shorthanded. So we can resolve some of those. I think there's good depth, and there'll be great competition for minutes at those two spots.
Yeah, Jeff,
how did you feel last night? Sorry, go on, Mikey.
I was just going to say, Jeff, what do you think's changed with RJ? Because when we watched him in Summer League, I think there was a lot of pressure on him going into that as a third-year player, and he really disappointed in Summer League. We'll just say it how it is, but he looks a completely different player in the first 3 preseason games. What do you think's changed?
Well, in fairness to RJ, right, is like, we can question his decision making and it was moving too fast. Yeah. He's playing with better players now, right? Like, he's playing with, that he spent a lot of time with, and you're playing with, Chuma and, Mo Bamba, Mo Wagner. We've talked a little bit about that. Terrence Ross, it's a little bit better caliber player than he was playing with in Summer League, that can take some of the pressure off of him. But, I think, you've got to give credit, and I just think what the staff that Jamal Mosley has put together, the work that they put in with these guys, the confidence they instill in them, I think really benefits, particularly young players. They don't let these guys get down on themselves. We saw that last year. They competed in pretty much every game last year. So I would give first credit to RJ for, putting in the work and figuring it out. But I would be very surprised if somewhere behind the scenes, whether it's a Nate Tibbetts or a Randy Gregory off the backbench, Lionel Chalmers, somebody's in his ear and working with him, being honest with him about the decision-making process. That's been a big part of it. But hey, as you guys know, you can put in the work and guys can be encouraging you, but you got to go do it in live action. And RJ, the proof is in the 3 games. He has been, you could argue, he's been our most consistent player through the first 3 preseason games.
The question I was going to ask was exactly about RJ, Mikey. So roll on, man. Roll on.
Okay. Well, just changing subject slightly, Jeff. The NBA are implementing several new rules this season, including warnings for bench players for standing up excessively. And the other is eliminating the take foul or penalising teams for that. What's your thoughts on the changes and the take foul? Is that something we certainly discussed last year that we wanted to see be brought in? Do you think that's going to help the game?
I think it will, although, if you guys have been kind of watching the games and stuff so far, we've had none. It has not even been an issue. Now it's preseason and maybe guys don't want to waste a foul and take one in preseason, but we haven't seen it. It's very interesting because the whole take foul was explained to us at the NBA broadcast meetings by the Monty McCutcheon, the head of officials. And, there's a bunch of, old players like me that are in the audience and everything. And the question became, so here's the thing to watch. And, and the take foul they're trying to get rid of is there's a fast break opportunity and a guy just grabs the ball handler or grabs somebody just to stop the play. The caveat in all this, though, is if the defensive player is making a legitimate play on the ball, like he's reaching for the basketball, right? Or something along those, or trying to take a charge or something like that, then it's not ruled a take foul. That makes sense, right? Yeah. So, the former player, who I will not mention, that was in the audience, and he's absolutely right. NBA players are great at adapting to rules, right? I imagine with any sport, right? You just adapt to the rules and you learn what you can and can't get away with, right? So what was suggested is probably going to happen is the referees are going to, every time you're going to slap at the ball, right? You're going to, and so there'll be some decision whether or not it is or isn't a take foul, whether or not the guy was making a play on the ball. And it's not reviewable to start. So it'll have to be, just one of those judgment plays. But I do think it's a good rule, right? I think it will clean up things. Hey, I'm a fan. I want to see the fast break opportunities, the excitement. I don't want to see the game come to a crawl. What you'll watch, though, is what they've done is the last 2 minutes of the game, that's not there. They're allowing the coaches to manage the clock. So the take rule, the last 2 minutes of the game, and I believe in overtime, is off the board. So, you may see them in those situations. The bench decorum thing is probably something that needed to be addressed because they showed examples of players, running out onto the floor. There was a funny one. It was happened twice. They showed where Rajon Rondo I think he's in Cleveland now. He was on Cleveland's bench at the end. He's a guy that will be he'll be a coach in our league. He is actually standing on the floor in the corner while play is going on, talking to his teammates and everything. And so it's little things like that. What they don't want to do, and I don't think is, one thing you love about this current edition of the Magic team is they celebrate every play with their teammates, right? And you love that. So they'll jump up and everything, and it's okay as long as they, quickly retreat and sit back down. It's a safety issue because, the benches are so close to the sideline. And for you guys, when you come to Orlando, right, and you happen to be sitting behind the Magic bench, it's great. You love their enthusiasm, but my goodness, sit down. I can't see the game, right? So it has to be a good fan experience as well. So those are little things. And again, the players will adjust and they'll catch on and it'll be fine. They'll take one warning on that bench decorum thing, and that shouldn't be a problem.
Who was that player in the broadcast meeting? No, I'm just playing with you. I'm just playing with you.
Who it was? Well, I don't know if you guys. I tell you who it was, and I think you'll be fine with me saying this. If you guys listen to NBA radio much or anything, if you do, well, then you probably heard Afternoons. Antonio Daniels. Yeah. He does color for the New Orleans Pelicans. And Antonio was the one, he was a guard, up pressuring and everything. And he says, hey, we're going to do what we have to do. That's what players do. And, he's absolutely right. Players will figure it out. They'll make the adjustment.
Did need addressing because there was a couple of incidents, if memory serves me right, with the Magic last season, towards the end of the season, where there wasn't space. The opposition was so close to the court.
Yes,
it was starting to affect shooting, and it wasn't right. I'm pleased to see it. Now this
well,
one also
and the other thing is from it's a safety standpoint too, right?
Yeah.
If you got everybody standing and the guys all of a sudden you shoot a 3-point shot, you get off balance and you step on someone's foot, right, or get caught, you roll an ankle or something like that. So. Didn't want to interrupt you there, Paul, but that was the case.
No, it's so good. It's so good. But this final one, it's not exactly Magic related, although I will work it round to it. But it's something the league's talking about. The little spat of the bout between Draymond and Jordan Poole.
See, now that's interesting the way you described that, right? Because that's what I, like when I played, it was a spat. It was a little spat, right? But it's a little bit bigger than
that. I've seen that sort of thing in police station parade rooms and sat in vans where just somebody will not let something go, and the old dog reacts. The puppy gets
a game with a referee.
I described it as the puppy got bit. The old dog had had enough and the puppy got bit. But how does a situation like that affect the team dynamic?
I really don't know how to even to say, what's so funny to me, Paul, is because like when I played, and I say this all the time, is like when I played, it if we went a week of practice and there wasn't a fight in the practice, then something was wrong, right? Like it's, you're competing, you're competing with each other, you're together all the time. It's, your brothers fight, you get into spats and everything, and you walk away from it, right? But here's the thing, there was no social media, right? There was no, TMZ's not paying whatever to get footage of this, things just happen. I guess for me, it's a pretty serious issue for them because now, there's a feeling they've got to address it. We've all heard the story of Michael Jordan punching Steve Kerr, right? Like we've heard that. We saw it in the Last Dance. And so here's the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, and he's being forced, to respond to, a situation in practice where one of your leaders is not happy and, it escalates. He throws a punch.
And you've told us about the incident with Scott Skiles and Shaq back in the days.
Yes, right. I mean, these things happen, and then you just move on, right? You move on. But now everybody's weighing in, and Jordan Poole needs to respond. And so I honestly, I don't, in this day and age, I don't know how this resolves itself, right? Does it just something else happens and it just goes away, or they handle it in house. Does Bob Myers and Steve Kerr, do they feel like they need to suspend him or to address it? I really don't know, because to me, it's just part of the game. But you never want to see. I mean, that was an ugly punch, right? You never want to see that. But it's not like this is the first time this has ever happened, right? And if you talk to any older players, they'll tell you, this is part of competition. This is going to battle every day in practice. It's what makes you better. It really is what kind of brings you together a little bit. At some point, probably Draymond and Jordan, I would think, maybe not. Like, I just know from my experience, it becomes, a laughing matter. Could Jordan, maybe it's like, man, is that all you got? I mean, I don't know. Is that your best shot? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you want to invite the second opportunity.
No,
definitely not.
We'll see.
Yeah, but I suppose that being the veteran, you could perhaps expect greater restraint from Draymond Green. So what
interesting was and again, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, carry on.
What was interesting was, it looked to me from what I saw was Draymond was standing on the sideline, right? Like he wasn't even involved in a play. So I don't, you don't know the timeline, right? Like, had there been some trash talk going on for, 20 minutes that just, came to an end? Typically these things happen when you're on the floor competing against each other, right? And you've just had enough. So, it'll be interesting to see what comes of it.
I saw Draymond's. He had a press conference shortly before we jumped on here, and he was saying that he was in a bad space because he's been dealing with some personal issues off the floor, and he wasn't in the best frame of mind. So maybe he had a shorter fuse, and Jordan got under his skin and got on the wrong end of it. But actually, what's funny is you mentioned about TMZ paying for that video. I was listening to Kevin O'Connor on the Mismatch podcast earlier discussing it, and they were saying maybe they didn't pay for it at all. Maybe it got leaked because he's due his little contract extension, and maybe that plays into it. So
could be. I just hope whoever leaked it, that they're rewarded handsomely, because man, if the Warriors or any other NBA team finds out you leaked something like that, you're done. You've got no future in the league. So
yeah, you're looking for another job, most definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
But I told you I'd work it round to the Magic, and this was the only way I could think of working this subject round to the Magic, but we had to talk about it. I would say perhaps seeing some more restraint from Draymond. But what do you see as the qualities of the veterans that we have in the locker room at the Amway?
Well, what I've seen, there are not many of them, Paul. Realize
exactly.
That, right?
Yeah,
like, we are a very young team, and then when you start really looking at it, and you start saying, who are the veterans? You could call Wendell a veteran, right? You could call, Mo Bamba is a fifth-year guy now. So. But I guess for me, when I listen to the guys talk, and they talk about, like a Terrence Ross, right? They talk about, his, just the way he's prepared, the way he works, the way he does things around the locker room. I've been really impressed with the three guys that are hurt, and Jonathan Isaac, Gary Harrison, Markelle Fultz. A lot of teams, when I played, you weren't allowed to be hurt, right? So the way they discourage you from milking being injured was you had to come to practice, be there for the entire time, and then any rehab or anything you did, that was on your time, right? So your day became really long. Yeah. And so in the facility that we have now, everything is right there, right? This training facility, the Magic have built, is incredible. And so it would be possible for those three guys to, be on the side on a bike or working on their condition or doing some things. You're not seeing it, right? They are on the sideline. They're walking. They're making observations. They're engaged. Which you think about it, especially for Jonathan Isaac. My goodness, he hasn't played since the bubble. All right, I mean it's been a couple of years, and he's right there, with his teammates, making suggestions, talking to the coaches and things. I think those things go a long way in the locker room from a leadership standpoint. Not so much maybe what they're saying, but just helping young guys understand what professionalism looks like. To be a pro in the NBA and all the other things that go into it besides just what you do on the court.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote earlier in the summer that you've really got to consider that both Markel and Jonathan Isaac are kind of two of our veterans. And when you look at the number of games that both have played in the NBA, it's still very, very low when you're talking about the years that they've been in the league, and you're considering them to be veterans as part of our team.
Yeah, and the positive on that, if you want to spin it away, they missed a lot of games and they've got the injuries, but with the technology today and the injury rehabilitation, you think about it, if they can get them back healthy and solid, which is, it seemed that Markel was there before this toe injury. They don't have a lot of miles on them, right? Like, the constant wear and tear of going up and down the court and the schedule of 82 games. That's really not been a huge factor for those two guys. So you hope that, they can be healthy, they can be strong, injury free, and their careers are still, big chunk of it is in front of them, which would be great for the Magic because both of those guys have skill sets that they're starters on pretty much most teams in the NBA. Jonathan, listen, we talk about what we've seen so far. We all understand that if Jonathan Isaac can get back healthy and play this year, changes everything, doesn't it? I mean, it really, we take a step defensively, we take a step offensively. I mean, that's the way he was playing before he got injured. He's a difference maker on the floor. So, but it doesn't do us any good. Him sitting in street clothes on the side, we got to get him out there.
I'm sure.
And go on, Mikey. Go.
I was going to say, I'm sure we're obviously all hoping for more health this year. I'm sure you are as well, Jeff, because I'm sure there was a part last year where you thought you were going to have to dust off your sneakers and suit up at one point last year.
There was a stretch there, guys, where I might as well have been calling a Lakeland Magic G League game. I mean, you think of all the guys, right, we had playing there for a while. And I mean, those guys came in and did a great job. But, with the not only the injuries, but with the health and safety protocols and all that, we had guys in and out of the lineup, we got Hassani Gravett starting one night, Admiral Schofield, and we're bringing guys, off we're just signing them and they're throwing them out there. So it does make my job a lot easier if we've got a very consistent group of guys that we're building from, and and I'm sure it makes the coaching staff a lot happier too when they know what they've got every night going into a game.
On that note, Jeff, do you still play a little bit in your spare time, or are you fully retired now?
I am fully retired. I am contemplating. No, I'm not contemplating. It's going to happen. My wife has had enough of me, but I am going to have to finally do something about my knee. I have, 4 surgeries on my left knee. and just all the years and everything like that. I'm really starting to like wake up in the morning and feel it. So I will join the legions of bionic men around the world that have had replacement parts here. I'm thinking I may do that after the season. I just can't run up and down. Now I will tell you this: I'm still pretty formidable in a game of horse. Any kind of shooting games,
I can imagine.
where I can just stand still. The competitive juices come out. Even the little kids, in the neighborhood and stuff like that. I just go right at them, right? I just won't. I know, don't take it easy, right? That's just.
We'll have to make that happen in 2 weeks' time, Jeff. Post game.
Bring it on, fellas. We'll do it.
Can I just say that last question, as a 54-year-old bloke, I know full well that last question came from a very much younger man asking if at our age you're still playing basketball.
Well, man, you love the game. So yeah.
Well, I do, but the funny thing is what I took a little bit. You guys know, after I did radio for a while, I took a little break and coached and taught for a little bit before I came back to do television for the Magic. And so I was in my 40s, and I just felt like I needed to show these young kids how to play and stuff. So I would get out and play, and I'd go home at night and I'd get all the ice bags and everything like that, swallow an Advil, whatever it would take, and it would take me 2 weeks to recover. So I learned my lesson. It's a young man's game. It's not for a young guy like you, Paul. I just turned 60 this year, so I am done. My golf game's getting there, though. My golf game's getting better.
They see. There's always improvements to be made as we grow older. There's always improvements. You can always be learning, Jeff. But, mate, I've just got to say, thank you so much for coming on. We genuinely do appreciate it. I know that you've took a break from helping neighbours and the community clean up to come and do this. And best wishes to you all, man. Best wishes to you all.
You guys know I love doing this, and you can call me anytime. And let's just pretend that you just wanted me.
We did want you.
Especially
we did
for
want you.
the 100th
It was great
episode,
to have you back with us.
It wasn't just me in the queue. It's you just needed this episode.
At
least that's what I want you to tell David. I want you to tell David that.
Well, in 2 weeks' time, my friend, we will be stood, hopefully courtside, having a chat to you in person. We're looking forward.
I look forward to seeing y'all. That's great. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Now, we will be recording next on Saturday, the 15th of October. And until then, thank you for listening to us. Stay up to date with all the latest Orlando Magic news by subscribing to our YouTube channel, the Orlando Magic UK, and following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at Orlando Magic UK. So from Jeff, Mikey, Geraint, and myself, until next week, go Magic.